Hey, what's up, guys? It is Cody with Christ-Minded Ministries. Chat today about my conversation that I had with a witch doctor or a shaman. So let's get into it. So today I went to go get my haircut, normal everyday activity. When I was getting my haircut, this lady was very, very bold in letting me know about her beliefs in shamanism and witchcraft kind of stuff. I didn't tell her she was wrong. I didn't tell her she was an idiot. I just let her speak. So she goes on for about 5 minutes and I don't say a word. And about 5 minutes in, I start to just ask her some questions. And not attacking her or anything still, I just asking some questions. Okay, do you believe in an absolute standard of morality, or do you believe that morality is just your opinion versus somebody else's? And she said, yeah, there's not an absolute standard of morality. And I said, okay, well, what do you think about rape? Do you think rape's wrong? And she said, oh, it's absolutely wrong. I said, okay, so do we agree that there's an absolute standard of morality? And she said, yeah, I guess we would have to say that then. And then she kept trying to go on tangents, but I kept kind of reeling it in. And I said, okay, so since you said there's an absolute standard of morality, that means it has to go beyond you, me, and Hitler, because if not, then Hitler wasn't wrong for killing 9 million people because of their race. He just has a different view than you. And we both agree that that's wrong. And she's like, well, of course. It's okay, great. Then where does that standard come from? And she said, well, just from inside of ourselves. I said, I can't. You just said it couldn't, because if not, Hitler's not wrong. And she was like, dang. She's like, I've never thought about that. I guess you're right. And she said, you know what? Yeah, I guess it does have some sort of absolute standard outside of you and me. And I said, do you think we could venture to say it comes from God? And she said, yeah, but I don't buy into the whole idea of it just being one God. She's like, I think it's silly that people argue over this God versus that God. She's like, all the religions at the end of the day are the same anyways. At this point, generally is when I would present the gospel to her or really fight her hard on something. But I just really felt in my spirit, just don't say anything right now. Just let her keep talking. I did not refute that point at that moment. And I just let her keep going. All this stuff about karma, and she said that she remembered her past life. She knows that her next life's gonna be good. All of this stuff and all of these experiences that she's had that are demonic and stuff like that. And she told me that they were demonic. So 30 minutes into the haircut, the other people around listening to the conversation are getting very uncomfortable. Because, I'm asking questions about her beliefs on spiritual matters, and she's being very open about things that are not talked about a lot because it's shamanism, witchcraft, witch doctor type things. So her manager actually just said, will you shut up about your beliefs for a second? And I guess she didn't hear because she kept going. But after the haircut was finished, I walk up to go pay, and condescendingly she says to me, so I can tell you've been thinking about that morality thing a lot. So what do you think about what I had to say? She kind of said it like that. And I said, yeah, you're right. I have thought about it a lot. I said, can I just share kind of my story with you of why I'm so concerned about it? And she was like, yeah, sure. So I said, I grew up in church and realized that Christianity is not true because I grew up that way. That's a very narrow-minded belief. And she started smiling, giving me kind of a condescending, like, exactly. So I really started doing some questioning, and I started searching into what was actually true and not true. So I studied out all those 5 core religions of Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and Judaism. I ended up coming to the conclusion that the only one that is intellectually consistent is Christianity. I was like, Christianity is the only one I could find that I saw any real truth in. Her eyes got kind of big, and she's like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah. I said, earlier you had mentioned that all the religions are the same. I said, I'll have to disagree with that point, because the other 4 main religions, they all teach that if you're a good enough person, then you can get to heaven, you can make God happy, right? And she's like, yeah, that's what it is. She was really universalist as well. She was somewhere between a shaman, witch doctor, and universalist, because she believed any path got to heaven, but this was the actual one that she thought was the right one. Jesus says otherwise. The issue with your belief on universalism is all of the 5 core religions all say that if you believe in anything else, that you're wrong. It's called exclusivity. Muslims say that if you believe in Yahweh, that you're wrong. And same with Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, agnosticism, and atheism. They all say the exact same thing, that if you disagree with our belief, then you're kicked out of the club, per se. And I said, so what would you respond to that? And she said, well, I don't think that I would acknowledge anyone who would say something like that unless it was God himself that showed us. Oh, perfect. I said, great. Well, I said, the difference between Christianity and all those other religions is this simple thing. You're not a good person. None of us are good people. And we can't do enough good to bribe God, who is the judge. Because she told me earlier that she believed that God would judge everybody one day. After enough rebirths, you would be judged by God one day for eternity. And I'd asked her, what do you think he's going to judge us by? And she's like, honestly, I don't know. I think he's just going to judge us by us. And I was like, well, earlier you had told me that you believe in absolute standard of morality, so it can't just be your vote versus the next guy's. She was like, I guess that makes sense. And I said, well, I'll let you know what he's going to judge you by one day. It's called the 10 Commandments. I said, you believe that murder is wrong, right? She said, oh yeah. I said, you believe that theft is wrong, right? She's like, well, yeah. I said, okay, great. Have you ever lied before? She was like, I have. Have you ever stolen? Yeah. And we went through some of the 10 Commandments. I said, that's what God's going to judge us by one day. We're guilty because we're not good people. We've messed up. We've fallen short of the glory of God. And I said, but there's good news. I said, there's really good news though. You've heard that Jesus died on the cross for your sins story, right? She's like, oh yeah, I've heard that. And I said, great. I said, hopefully I can get it to you in a different light today. I said, God is a judge, like you'd mentioned, and we're guilty criminals in his courtroom. But Jesus lived the life we couldn't live, died the death that we deserved to die, and rose again, defeating death, hell, and the grave. So that was Jesus' way of actually paying the fine for the sin, for the law that we broke against God, so that we can go out of the courtroom free because of Jesus paying the fine for us. And her eyes lit up, and she was like, I have never seen it that way. And I said, yeah. I said, I'm sorry that no one's ever said it to you that way. But I said, this is the truth. This is the exclusive truth. But Jesus is giving you a personal invitation to accept it. I said, can I give you something to watch to kind of explain this further? And she said, yeah. So I'd actually sent her, it's called The Atheist Delusion by Ray Comfort and Living Waters. I love them to death. But yeah, it was a really incredible conversation. It really changed her whole view on Christianity and on even shamanism. So be praying for her. And I just want to encourage you guys that if you're a Christian, we're called to represent Christ everywhere we go. That was not a comfortable conversation for me. That was not an easy conversation for me. I went about it a lot different than I generally would. We're called to represent Christ everywhere we go. Jesus talks to the woman at the well. That wasn't preach to woman at the well day. That wasn't preaching day. That was just Jesus living life. And then, later to the adulterous woman in John 8, and then Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5-7, and then in 10, he's sending out the 12. And you see my point is it's just a lifestyle that they lived, a Good Samaritan story. He sees somebody with a need on the side of the road and meets that need. Us as Christians are called to do the exact same thing for a lost and dying world. So I want to encourage you guys and challenge you guys today, whether you're at work or school tomorrow or the gym or restaurant, you have an opportunity to represent Christ well. And I challenge and encourage you guys to do it because you don't know whose life you could change and transform just by having one moment of representing Christ to that person.